Ride one time for your mind. Ride one time for your mind. Ride one time for your mind.
We are here. We are here, linked in with your boy, the Coach and Jessie Naylor for Niners at Night. Yet another installment. And we got a good show for you tonight because we have a lot of things to talk about. The Niners are basically coming into their own. We've got one preseason game under the books, and we've got what we thought were going to be better practice reports coming in throughout the week. So we got some other topics to talk about. But before we get into it, I'm here with my boy Jesse. How you doing, Jess?
Doing fantastic, Coach. Always fun to join you on these Monday evenings. Also fun to join you when we don't have internet issues. This is so nice.
100%. I can't believe you brought me right back to that. It was wild. I mean, for the time that we were in Santa Clara, man. I mean, we were pretty much boots on the ground, bro. As far as like getting the internet to go, the hotspot, the audio. I mean, it was all over the place, man. And like, I'm just glad that we're amongst the land of the living, bro. Like, we finally are in a place where it's like, look, we got internet, we got lights, we got cameras, and we're feeling really good, man. So what I wanted to do is just kind of get into a couple of things, because I feel like the first topic that we're going to talk about really is awesome, because I want to do it with you, because I was actually at practice with you. So we had a chance to see what the Niners were doing practice-wise. We got a chance to see the effort, what perceived to be flat practices or heavy practices. And from what we've seen, I think it's pretty fair to say that out of 4 practices that we saw, there was a lot to be desired as far as like the effort on all fronts. And one of the things is that there were a couple of things that were misnomers that actually signaled towards that. One is our own eyes, like literally just feeling what was happening at practice. 2 was other fans and content creators that were in the stands with us who were mentioning to us like, yo, did practice feel flat to you today? Or, I didn't like the energy today, or they really didn't seem like they had it today. And then 3 is when you start looking at canceling practices going into joint practices, where the offseason is a phase, right? It's all in phases. And I remember going through our camp coverage, and there were, of course, people pushing back, but we had already said, like, look, we're not here to tell you what we're saying. What we're seeing is the end all to be all. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that we're here for a point in time. This is what we see. Okay. And as phases carry out with the offseason, we're going to be able to see not only the first week of practices, the first week of padded practices, which we were there for, but we'll be able to see the first preseason game. Then we'll be able to see joint practices, right? We remember saying this explicitly to the fans. And hey, once we get new information, then you know what? I'm 100% inclined to change my opinion with new information. That's only what a smart man would do. If you get new information, you have to change your opinion, your assessment of something that you're looking at. Well, since we've been there for a week, and our overall assessment of how we felt about the team versus us being able to see a whole preseason game, and then now we get news that the Niners are in fact not going through joint practices. They've canceled joint practices with the Saints. And we have to discuss the significance and flat out, is it a big deal or not a big deal? And how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I I don't know that it's a big deal in the sense that the season's lost because they couldn't do joint practices, but it has to be concerning that they, at this point, can't even make it through the first preseason game and into the second preseason game without losing enough bodies to where it's an issue. You know, last year was a big situation where they were extremely healthy. And all offseason, I talked about that. You know, everybody's like, well, the roster's the same. So, I mean, ipso facto, they should be back in the Super Bowl. The talent's the same. It's like, well, yeah, but every year is different. And injuries last year weren't only really good in their favor, but it was the best that this team has seen injury-wise in quite some time, many, many years. And this year already, they're bitten by the injury bug way worse than they were last year. They can't even field a full team to make it through practices comfortably, and we're not even into week 2 of the preseason. That's a major concern. Now, is it a concern from the standpoint that, okay, if all their guys get healthy, they can't be ready for week 1? Yeah, they might be a little flat week 1 because they couldn't do joint practices or couldn't play their starters throughout the preseason or what have you. But I think they can get that under control. But man, the fact that they can't even make it there yet is a major, major concern. What if the season started this Sunday and this was what they were looking at? They can't even get to joint practices. How the hell are they supposed to compete in week 1? Things have to change really, really quickly. And unfortunately, today there was even more worse news. One of the standouts from the preseason games, Kalia Davis, who looked like a major bright spot coming out of that game, is now going to miss at least half of the season, having surgery on something going on behind his kneecap, a guy who's already had knee issues. This is not a great start. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully health kind of turns around for him, but this is not how you want to start a Super Bowl or bust season, on top of the fact that you have 2 of your best players that aren't even rostered at this point and in pads and at practice. So not great.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I mean, and then, you know, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, moves like a duck, it's a duck. And, you know, we just gave honest assessment about what we saw about the team in the raw, right? And now we're talking about, you know, what are some of the reports that we had on the very first day of practice? And we got pushback, man, for being, you know, negative, coming all the way out to Santa Clara to be pessimistic. But the first day of practice, what did we say in padded practice? They were so depleted that they couldn't even give the defense a look. There was points on the offensive line where what they were showing us was, man, look, they don't even have starters, bro. Like, who's playing? Who are these guys that they have going forward right now? And really, you could say to yourself, all right, well, duh, coach, if they don't have these guys, then ipso facto, they're going to bring their starters. And it's just like, bro, but that's not who we are. We're a team that's made up of our depth. We're a team that's made up of all parts of how we're made. And I just didn't see it. And with this, and what I saw in the preseason game, which we're going to touch on this later in the show, but they got some depth issues where the Niners are contingent upon the intensity in which they play, where we lead, we run the ball. Okay. We're a team that is led by our pass rush and our defense and our front seven. We're supposed to be a physical team that leads up front. All right. And a front running team, quite frankly. It's who we are. It's not anything disparaging to say. So I don't like it. It's not everything, but it is something, in my opinion. Joint practices signify another phase of the offseason where you're getting prepared for a season. After a while, since, you know, once you play against each other and you get the reps out with each other, you get a little bit of muscle memory. You get tired of going up against the same guys. And joint practices are a way for you to be able to get raw looks from another team, to be able to expose some of the things that you can't necessarily work out because the guys know each other, right? You need a different level of competition. You need a different level of coaching. You need something just different to be able to give you that raw assessment. We're not getting that. We're not going to get that this offseason. That's concerning, right? And I don't know, like, how do you not have enough people to go through joint practices, but we haven't even gone through first cut? That's kind of wild too. Like, We got over 90 guys on the roster. So how are we not being able to field practices? It's almost as if the Niners have, in my opinion, they may have a swath of players on the team that they literally just have for camp fodder. And they're saying to themselves, these practices aren't worth us going through because really the bulk of what we have or what we're going to walk into the season with isn't going to get the work anyway. So we don't need to go through these practices, which again is even more concerning because now you're talking about the practices aren't enough to fill your depth. So are the Niners telling us that we're just going to be top heavy this year? I don't know, man.
I mean, the 49ers, when they've been at their best, they've relied on their depth. 2019, a big reason why they were as good as they were was because of the depth. I think last year, they weren't injured a ton, and so they didn't have to rely on the depth a ton. But you do have to rely on the depth, especially in rotational positions like the defensive line. I mean, Giannis somehow watched that game on Sunday or Saturday and didn't come away impressed with Kalia Davis. I think he's the only person. But listen, Kalia Davis is trying to fight for a position on this team. And right now, you've got 3 defensive tackles. You're trying to find the 4th. And I think Kalia Davis had shown enough that he was probably going to be that 4th guy and solidified himself. And knowing how this defensive line rotates, he was going to play 20 to 25% of the snaps, and that's important play. And so now you're likely going to have to look to replace him for at least half the season. That's assuming he does come back, and those snaps matter. He did play against the first team of the Titans. He did play against the second team of the Titans, and he was going to be probably your 3rd or 4th defensive tackle off the bench, and so now you've got to replace that. Is that the end of the world? No, but it is certainly something, especially between you and I when we went to practice and we looked at it and said, man, I don't know who the 3rd and 4th defensive tackles are for sure going to be on this team. Certainly the 4th. And it's like, I feel like we found our answer and now all of a sudden he's gone. So they got to find the answer again. So yeah, I mean, these things do matter. Certainly.
Yeah. I mean, they do. It's not what you want to see when you're building a base to go to get a championship. I mean, if we were just trying to field the team and get things together, there'd be a lot of things that I'd be willing to give us a break for. We just came out of a Super Bowl hangover. We've played the most games amongst any team in the league by at least 10 games combined from the past 3 seasons that we've played. I mean, we charted over 60 games. We're a little bit older, so there's a way that you ingratiate yourself into camp. To be able to supplant injuries. I mean, there's a lot of excuses that you could there's a buffet of excuses that you could really grab onto, but it's hard for me to accept all that on top of the fact that we don't even have 2 of our best players under contract. Right now, if you think about what we usually do customarily, the Niners are about, they kind of assess their team, right? They see what they have, and depending on injuries or how they feel about the level or the standard of play that they want to have into the season, they usually make a move. I think the Niners will make a move. I mean, we've got $33 million in cap space right now, and it's looking like there are some guys that are out that are for play that I don't agree with, but I just feel as though that the Niners are going to try to make a move for possibly a pass rusher. But from the looks of it, I don't see anybody that's necessarily going to do anything on the interior defensive line. I mean, we've got a 29-year-old Malik Collins, a 31 to 32-year-old Leonard Floyd. I don't really believe in Evan Anderson as a guy that's necessarily going to be a difference maker, not more so than just a body. And again, these are not guys that played against the Tennessee Titans yesterday, but I just I don't necessarily see the top end talent right now. It seems like we're trying to make our way to the season rather than get primed for a run. There's a difference when you're preparing, when there's just certain things about the team where you're like, okay, we've maxed out these elements. We're getting the conversations during camp about how the guys look. And just, you don't hear about those efficient days or those stories where right now you're not even hearing about guys that are just necessarily shutting things down, where we're not even worried about them to the season. At this stage of the game, we're kind of like excusing away why we look the way we do right now, rather than actually talking about what we look like right now. Like, there's a difference. Like, there's an excuse, and then when is there going to come a time where kicking the can about, oh, well, we don't necessarily feel good about padded practices right now, so we're not going to go with hard days back to back. We're going to give the boys a break. We're going to give guys a break and ingratiate guys. And then you can sit back and say, all right, cool. I get it. Beginning of camp, first day of pads. I get it. Then we're going to have one day of hard practice. You're going to say, all right, next day, let's see if we have something hard. Nope, we're going to sit everybody down. You know, Christian's not going to practice, probably going to sit George down. We'll bring Brunskill out, run him a couple of times, but then sit him down. Then we'll sit back and say, all right, cool. You know, first week of practice, you know, we can't be there for everything. All right. Then preseason comes around and you see the Titans out, like, running all over us. At one point, they were up 130 yards on the ground. And then, you know, we can excuse that away and say, Coach, Jessie, shut the hell up. It's just backups. It's second or third team. Like, you guys are just worrying yourselves. Then one of the guys that we're counting on, you know, Kalia Davis, he's out 10 weeks. We won't see him till week 8 with yet another knee injury, which is why it took so long for us to get him going in the first place. So we don't even know what he'll be once he'll get back. And then you can still say, guys, you're doing way too much. At what point are we going to stop kicking the can and we're going to have to say, God damn it, I think this is just who we are? There's no more excuses.
I mean, that's going to be in the regular season. You're going to have to see losses. It's not, you know, and that's fine. That's probably the right answer. You know, I'm not hitting the panic button by any means, for sure. But one thing I am doing is just taking notice of everything and trying to forecast what might be to come, you know. And it's interesting because you and I talked about flat practices the whole time we were there. There were other content creators saying it. I don't know if they've said it on their streams. Mm-hmm. There were fans saying it. And today I was listening, before we went live, I was listening to Larry and Grant, and I heard Larry say it. Larry's like, man, I'll tell you what, compared to last year, way flat. These practices are low energy. It's flat. It's like, oh, well, thank you very, very much, man. Like, this is what we've been saying. So it is nice to hear that validated from other people that, by the way, were there when we were there, but frankly have been there since we left and are still saying the same thing. So clearly there is something that is happening at practice and happening with this team that is palpable, that people are feeling other than just us. So we're not just making things up. It's not just us having a feeling. They also are recognizing the same things we were recognizing. Now, what does that mean for this season? I don't know. But if we get into the season and they look flat and they start out 2-3 or something like that, at least we have something to look back on and say, yeah, we kind of saw this coming. I mean, we talked about it all off season or all training camp, and here we are, you know. And maybe they don't. Maybe they start out great and it's a moot point and we don't have to talk about it again. But it is nice to know that you can follow the path of this team all the way through, and maybe what we're seeing now is telling us what's about to happen in the season, and maybe it's not. We'll find out.
Yeah, definitely. 100%, man. Like, I hopefully we'll get to the point where, you know, maybe the consistency of our reporting will show through, or we'll be able to have egg on our faces and say, you know, us being as granular as we were in the summer was a little bit of a moot point. But we'll see, man. We will see. It is ominous. I will be honest with you. It's not something that you want to hear. Like, you know, right here. Yes, definitely. SH Niner Gang says, practice how you play. Just saying. It is what it is. Like, there was a time where, if you think about it, one of the things that I was so proud of this, like, and this is some of the stuff that I'm feeling it, Jesse. I don't want to like belabor this point. I want to move on, but I'm feeling it, Jesse. Like, all right, man. Like when Trent first got here, I was out here with Trent. Okay. And I know what type of organization Trent came from when he got here. It was nowhere near what we were doing over here. All right. Practicing was different. Everything was different. We're a first class organization. And the first thing that Trent said when he got here was what? He's like, bro, everything, like the walkthroughs here feel like our hardcore practices. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dude, the way everybody moves here, like the attention to detail here, like this is something that I've never seen before. This is a whole different ball game. Like Arden Key said the same thing when he got here. Charles Omenihu said the same thing. Like it's all, everybody says it when they came here back in the day, a couple of years ago. Hey man, this whole organization is just different once you get here. And now we're sitting here talking about practices. Like last year, one of the keys to defense on winning was effort. You know what I'm saying? Finishing. I don't, these are the markings. You don't lose the games on Sundays, man. This is when you lose the games. Now is when you lose the games. When you start to see these guys Cadillacing it in the summer when they should be dogging it. When you see Aaron Banks getting blown off the ball all camp. And then we've been talking about, man, Aaron Banks is having quietly one of the worst camps out of all the 49ers right here. And what do we see? First play of the game in preseason, he gets blown off. Come on, man. He gets blown off the ball. We've been saying this all offseason. Since we've been up there, we've been talking about Aaron Banks. This is stuff that we not saying. Now, if the Niners just all of a sudden pull a Houdini, I will be the first to say, hey, they had us fooled. They had me fooled, man. They had me fooled. But we can't fake the funk and act like we don't see what we're seeing. And we're also not going to ignore the consistent things that we're seeing that are like giving us confirmation. Right? So,
yeah, I mean, at some point it is reality, like you said, when does that point come? And I think the answer certainly is the regular season, but there already is some things that we can point to from 4 days in practice that showed up in the first preseason game. And if it shows up in the second preseason game and the third preseason game and week one, you know what I mean? At some point, like it is who we are. And that's the question that you want to know is, when is that who we are? Well, we'll see. We'll see in the regular season. But Banks is a great example of that. We talked the whole time we were there, like, man, he doesn't look any better than he did last year. Didn't look good. Hey, McKivitz looks pretty good. Pooney looks pretty good. Yeah, they looked pretty good, in there. I don't know what the depth looks like behind these edge rushers. I don't know if there's anybody that can get home. Well, nobody could really get home from
nobody got home.
As far as stopping the run, we had questions. Can they stop the run? Well, I would say so far, not great. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there is some things that have shown up that we saw in a 4-day time span that did show themselves in the preseason. We'll see how long it continues. But, yeah, I mean, at some point it is just who they are. And if this is who they are, that's the real question. The real question is not, is this who they are or is it not? We'll find that out. The real question is if this is who they are, is this good enough to win a Super Bowl? And the answer is absolutely not. So we better hope this is not who they are.
There you go. And I love the way you quantify that, because that's really what the elephant in the room is. It's not the fact that we're speaking to a standard. It's let's just cut the shit. Is this good enough to go to a Super Bowl? Hell no. This is not even close. Yeah. Sorry. So it is what it is. Speaking of, the business of the 49ers, I mean, here we are, literally mid-August, and this is what we're dealing with. 49ers have their trade proposal to the Steelers. I thought it was the other way around, but reports have come out that the 49ers' bold trade demand, breaking down the 49ers' surprising request to the Steelers, where they have said that the only deals that they're interested in would have to include Minkah Fitzpatrick, Pat Freiermuth, or George Pickens, plus a draft pick, preferably a second or a third round pick. I mean, you know what? I'm a gracious host. I'm going to let you take this, Jesse. Is this realistic or not? Is this a serious offer? Are the Niners being honest brokers here? Like, what are we doing here?
No, they're absolutely not, and they never have been when it comes to trade talks. From what we understand, I mean, we know that Jimmy Garoppolo, were offered a second round pick for him 2 years ago, and they turned that down because they felt like he was worth either a first or 2 twos, and so they sat on him, and he awkwardly trained off to the side, and then was signed for a different price and backed up Trey Lance, and we know how that whole thing went down. No, the 49ers at this point in the game cannot expect anybody to trade for Brandon Aiyuk, pay Brandon Aiyuk money that they're not willing to pay him, by the way, and give up a play. First of all, if I'm the Steelers, I'd be like, if I'm giving you Minkah Fitzpatrick and you're giving me Brandon Ayuk, I want the fucking second round pick.
I want the second round pick.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
not giving you a second round pick. Like, what are we actually talking about here?
Thank you, bro.
Not. So no, that's not right. Pat Fairmouth, look, if it's gonna be Pat and maybe a 4th round pick, I could see that. I think that's probably fair. I mean, Pat's up and coming, but he's not Brandon Ayuk's level by any means. So
he's not even. Pat would be below what we would deserve.
Right. So you can give a pick with that. And then, what was the other one? Pickens. You want Pickens in a second? Absolutely not. It's just not going to happen. So ultimately, yes, the 49ers are asking for way too much. And maybe the Steelers aren't willing to give enough. I think both can be true. A report came out that the Steelers aren't even willing to give up a second round pick. I mean, that's also BS. It sounds like they're pretty far apart if that's the case.
Well, can I say something for that then?
Yeah.
Do you blame the Steelers for not wanting to give a second, depending on what they probably wanted to give the Niners pre-draft?
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to give they were going to give a first round pick.
They were going to give a first round pick.
Right.
Right. If you got to be like, let's just see it from the Steelers' perspective. If I'm willing to give you a first round pick when the market is hot, okay, and I'm ready to play ball, and you basically give me your ass to kiss and say this kid is way better than your first round pick, it's like, all right, well, when we come back and I know your ass is in a sling and you can't sign the kid and the season is right, you got your back against the wall, I'm not sweetening the deal with a second round pick. Like, nah, bro. You can because I gotta sign him. I gotta sign him. So now, no, I'm not giving you a second round pick. I don't blame this Pittsburgh. I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, they're bidding against themselves. But I think if the 49ers said, hey, we understand we're not going to get a player in return, but we do want a second and a 4th, I could understand that. I think that's completely within a reasonable thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But asking for Minkah Fitzpatrick in a second, like, no. Minkah Fitzpatrick's a better player than Brandon Aiyuk in the league. He's more valued than Brandon Aiyuk. If you just put them both on a trade block and went team by team, Minkah Fitzpatrick would fetch more than Brandon Aiyuk in the open market. He just would.
Yeah,
he's a better player.
He would. Yeah. I mean, straight up and down better player. I don't understand. I mean, well, let me ask you this. On the side of it being a serious offer, do you think the Niners are asking for something that they know that they're going to absolutely get, or are they just trying to just hold up enough time to get things done with BA? Like, is there a side to this where the Niners are asking for stuff that they know they're not going to get?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 parts of this. If the reports are true, what they were offered from the Patriots and the Browns, 2 bad organizations, by the way, at this point. I mean, yes, the Patriots have a bunch of rings, but that was a regime of the past, okay? So right now, the Patriots are an organization that's flailing. The Browns just started to win last year, but overall, they've been a bad organization. If those 2 bad organizations were willing to give up a ton, if that is your expectation going into the Steelers, I understand why they would want more, But the reality is the Steelers aren't a dumb organization. They're not going to give up a lot just to get Brandon Aiyuk because they know they're bidding against themselves. And yeah, maybe there is part of this that the 49ers are like, listen, Brandon, you don't want to go to any other team that we were willing to trade you to based off of the offers. We're not willing to trade you to this one team that you're saying yes to because they're not giving us enough. So I guess we're at a stalemate. I guess what I would say is I wish the 49ers ultimately just picked a lane and stuck with it. BA, you're playing on the 5th-year option. This is what the Jets just did to Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick came out today, requested a trade, and they said, that's cute. A, we're not trading you. B, we'll see you first week of regular season. And if you're not here, we're going to focus on the players that are here. Hard line, that's it. Figure it out.
I said that, man. All right. So I said that when I didn't even know what was going on. Right. I said that's what the Niners should just do, man. Stop going back and forth. Because right now, the trade market is a cesspool. You're not going to get out of that thing with a fair deal. Like, I don't think that they understand that. There's no deal that you could shake out without a team doing something that's damn near a fireable offense for you to come out on the better end of this because of the timing of the deal. That's just what it is. Any shrewd operator in the NFL right now coming from a team is going to make sure that they don't give you everything that you want in the deal due to the fact that we're standing in the shadow of the season. It's coming right now. So there's that. But furthermore, I would just want to know, what do you think that the Niners are going to do as far as atoning for the fact that they were too late on this? Like they're late on this. And they're, right now, we're talking about the hard line that the Jets pulled with Hassan Reddick. Going into the next topic, it seems as though that BA has drawn a hard line with the Niners. And what he's basically said is that, look, there are reports that the 49ers could possibly ask BA to, turn down. I mean, the 49ers could possibly turn down all deals considering BA and move for him to play on the 5th-year option. And BA has let the Niners know that I'm absolutely not playing on the 5th-year option. Now, what's a little wild about this is, because you and I touched on this, is that I was a little frustrated with BA. And I was frustrated with him because I felt like his actions weren't matching his words. And what do I mean by that? You say that you wanted a trade, but then you showed up to practice. You say you're not holding out, but then you're holding in. Now, that could be because BA wants to be able to be an honest broker, show good faith. Hey, guys, things aren't going as well. We haven't necessarily had a lot of FaceTime. I want to see my guys. I want to be in the building, at least show you guys that I'm here for the business of football. But at the same time, we could chew gum and walk at the same time. Like, I know we still got to get the deal done, but I'm here. Right. And I was a little frustrated with that because I felt like it muddied the waters to the primary goal, which is to get the deal done. You should not be there physically. Right. So I was frustrated with that. Then, coincidentally enough, BA is saving himself some money by actually showing up because he wasn't taking on any fines. Now we're coming to another hard line, which is BA is actually saying that he's ready to miss games during the season, which is undeniable fines. You will get fined for missing these games. Is he serious? And if he is, will the Niners call his bluff and literally go through a season with Brandon Aiyuk not playing, but on a deal?
So I had heard that was the plan the whole time, was that he wouldn't play in the regular season until he had to, if he didn't get the deal that he was looking for.
And that's essentially week 8.
No, it's week 11. He only has to have 6
week
weeks.
11. Yeah. He only needs 6 games to actually clock a year. So week 11. Yeah.
It's 6 weeks. So it's 5 games and a bye week, essentially, is what he needs. He needs 6 total weeks to accrue a season. So that's what I had always heard, is that he was willing to sit out as long as it took up to that point. Now, that seemed fishy to me once he showed up for training camp and did this hold in. I'm like, hold on. If he's really willing to miss games, why would you not hold out of training camp? So that seemed a little weird to me. He requests a trade, shows up to training camp. That tells me maybe he's not as about it as he says he is. But now the rumors are resurfacing. I'm curious. I almost the devil on my shoulder almost wants me to see him not get a deal and see if he doesn't show up week one, just to see if he's really about that life. You know what I mean? Because he says he is, but then he showed up and held in. Is he really willing to hold out? And I almost wonder if the 49ers are ready to see that as well. Like, you know what? We're not going to trade you to the Steelers. We're not really willing to offer you any more money. We'll see you week one. And I'm curious to see if he holds out. I tend to lean towards he probably is, but I also would have thought that he wouldn't have showed up to training camp either. So maybe he will show up and play. I don't know. But if he doesn't, the 49ers are risking a lot. I know that people say BA's risking a lot. I think the 49ers are risking a lot too, man. I think they both have a lot to lose. Well, if he doesn't show up and they lose and they're not playing well and they don't have anybody that can get deep and teams start closing in on this offense and realize, hey, we can play these guys 15 and in and start jumping short crossing routes and this type of thing, it makes it really, really hard on this offense to execute and do the things they need to do if everybody's moving up. So Brandon Aiyuk's the guy that takes the top off. He's the guy that runs those clear out routes. He's the guy that gets those deep crossers, or he's the guy that runs the deep posts so that those crossers are open underneath. I mean, that's Brandon Aiyuk. If you throw out Conley or Pearsall or whoever to start opening that thing up, is anybody really worried about those guys? Or do they just say, all right, you go ahead. We'll just start jumping these underneath routes. And then, much like they did with Jimmy, it's like they knew Jimmy wasn't going to take those shots. So they just started jumping underneath routes and jumping those crossers. And it was hell for them sometimes when teams would run cover one robber and those types of things. And Purdy has opened it up with his game, showing he's much different than Jimmy, but Purdy can only do with what's around him. And if what's around him means that they have to play the same type of game they did with Jimmy, and not because of Purdy, but because of the weapons or lack thereof, then you could start to see some of the same problems happening with this offense.
I mean, I don't know if you've heard, Jesse, but we just signed the chosen one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. God.
So all is good on the wide receiver front. We just signed Chosen Anderson. Okay.
Yeah, we got the guy that looks like don't be a menace to South Central while sipping my juice in the hood. Condoms in his hair and whatever else going on. That's crazy.
Said, do we have a problem? Dog, I mean, I'll say this. This is all while we presumably have Trent Williams back, right? So this is a whole different ball game when it comes to, it's not gonna shape out well if he sits back and doesn't play during the season. It's going to be a cloud over the entire locker room. And then you have to say, all right, man, let's stop. Let's cut it, man. This is about BA and Kyle. This is all about BA and Kyle, bro. What is wrong with him, man? Why won't he just give this dude the $28 million that Debo strong-armed him into giving, the $30+ million that Nick strong-armed him into giving him, the $30 million that Trent strong-armed him into giving him? It's like, what did BA do that was so personal that Kyle cannot just see it through? Because we talked about this in calling shows. Jesse, I've talked about this on my platform before. And you know what? I feel like I don't have enough subscribers yet where I can still be a little lit. I can still like go tinfoil a little bit before, everybody locks me up. So like I can still go a little tinfoil. Dude, we know that the biggest issue right now is Kyle has an issue with the fact that BA won't bend the knee. Okay, BA has been very contentious about the offense. He's been very open about how he's being utilized, and Kyle won't bend the knee. And another thing is, let's go a little bit more X-Files. It's not Parag. It's not. Okay, it's not John. These are the guys that are sending out overtures from what Kyle essentially wants. It's like they're like Kyle's passive aggressive interpreters. Like, you seen the Obama interpreter? You know what I'm saying? The black man interpreter from Key and Peele. Like, that's what Parag and John Lynch are for Kyle. They are Kyle's passive aggressive interpreters. Okay. And then when it's time for the deal to finally get done, I think the biggest thing is that there's always like this shroud of like Kyle's character where he's able to still be Kyle, to come in at like the last second and say, "Hey man, what's going on, dude? What's going on? Like, hey, there's a problem with Parag, man. Like, what's going on? Dude, you want to talk about it? We can talk about it. You want to go over your deal? How much? Like, how close are you?" And then Kyle can at least save face while looking like the fixer, right? Where the truth of the matter is that you failed. You failed. You tried to limit this guy. You tried to rate this guy at a certain price tag. He pushed back at the end of the day, and then you get to at least save face and come back and give him what he ultimately wants. And then when you sign the guy, you guys get to walk onto the practice field together, and you guys get to bump each other and say, "John's an asshole, right? I'm telling you, he is. Parag's the worst. I know he is." And it was Kyle all along. I think that the biggest issue is that BA has superseded all of that. I think BA has kept the main thing. And it is not Parag. It is not John. It's Kyle. And I think that BA has been going straight at Kyle this entire negotiation. And that's why I keep saying that I don't think it's about money anymore. Because now that the cat's out the bag, that is the $28 million, BA is more than, come on, bro, that's adequate. That's exactly what he's worth. That's 30. I was looking at him a little crazy. Like, all right, bro, like, you're doing too much. For your first deal, you're being a little greedy. Like, come on, have some context. You play with a whole bunch of all-pros, first-team all-pro guys. Like, come on. But now that we're hearing that, not only does he want 28, but he sees the other offers. He turned down 32 from New England. All right? Then the 30 that Pittsburgh is willing to offer him, he's saying to himself, all right, even with that, I'll give you the hometown discount. They want to go 30, but what's it worth to me to play with the team that I know I'm going to win? $2 million off that. So let's go 28, and to know that the Niners won't budge from the 26 that they initially offered after the draft. They don't even want to have enough self-awareness to realize, like, we did kind of start these negotiations late. I know we kind of fucked it up. I'm sorry. Like, be real. You were too late. Like, I just don't feel like they have any self-awareness whatsoever. And that's why I don't feel like it's the organization. I feel like the blunders are being made are the blunders that can only be made by one person making all of the decisions. Because if multiple people were making these decisions, somebody along the way would have tapped Kyle on the side and been like, bro, we're tripping. I mean, you got to make a decision. I don't care about how you feel about him, but this can't be drawn out. This is classic Kyle. People can never get out of his doghouse. He wants to festoon and his emotional druthers. Like he just can't get over himself. And really, somebody should have tapped Kyle on the side and said, listen, I know that you got worth issues with the kid, and I know it's kind of personal, but we got a draft coming up. You might want to do something now. If we're going to do something, we need to do something that's actually going to make sense for the team. And we can't have a contingency like, and the contingency is what? Oh, here goes Kyle. Oh, well, why don't we just try to outdraft it? So that way we can still hold on to BA, get what we need in the draft, and then we can still keep kicking the can. And then you go get a guy that can't even make it on the field. And you're still signing receivers. I just think that they have made so many missteps as the quote unquote responsible leveraged organization in this situation, that at the very least, it should cost you $2 million. At the very least, you need to bend the knee.
Well, I feel like BA in a roundabout way said the same exact thing that we're kind of saying. What was it the other day? He saw the tweet talking about how now the 49ers are interested in trying to rework a deal. And he's like, look, there's two options. There's two options here. Like, just pick a side. Pick something that you're willing to go
just
with.
Make a choice, bro.
That was absolutely to the 49ers. The 49ers need to make a choice. Are you making me play on the 5th-year option? If you are, I'll sit out. Are you going to pay me? If you are, I'll show up. I'll be happy. I'm fine being a 49er. Or are you going to trade me and I'll happily go to the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's the option. So I've given you what I'm willing to do, but you are yet to tell me what it is you're willing to do. Right? Like, you're telling me you're willing to trade me, but kind of only if you get enough in return. You're willing to pay me, but only if it's $26 million. And also you're willing for me to play on the 5th-year option and revisiting this again next year. You haven't told me what it is you're deciding to do so I can act accordingly. So I'm going to act as if all the options are available and continue to tell you this is what I'm willing to do given the scenarios. What is it that we are doing here?
Yeah, I think that's the operative thing. And because of the indecisiveness of the organization, I feel like it rests on one person. Right now, there's no deal to be had. The only way that the Niners could save face, and this just came to me in the middle of the show. The Niners are Kyle's going to have to show some mettle. It's not just BA. BA ain't the only person that's going to have to stand on business. Kyle's going to have to be the guy that's now the de facto. We already know that he's judge, jury, and executioner. But now Kyle's going to have to be the guy that gets to march out in front of the fans after we win or lose games. And if BA is not playing, he's going to have to answer those questions. Like, any word on Brandon. And the thing about it is that because we know that you have your hands literally on everything, this isn't something that you're going to be able to pass the buck and say, well, the organization, I don't deal with that stuff. That's going to be the most disingenuous crock of shit of all time when it's all the way to the season. That's the thing about lies. We all know this. You tell one lie, you got to tell another lie.
A bigger lie.
You got to tell a bigger lie. You tell another bigger lie, you got to tell a bigger lie. And the biggest lie was, I don't have anything to do with financial situations with the team. That's their deal. I'm just worried about football. You can't say that shit after week 1. Nobody's going to take that as an excuse. Nobody's going to say, all right, well, Kyle, what do you think about the financial situation? What's going on with BA? If BA is not playing week 1, I dare Kyle to sit out and say, oh, well, I don't deal with financial situations right now. That's between the organization and the player. It's going to be like, well, wait a minute. I thought you were the big swinging dick, man. I thought you handled everything. So wait a minute. So now your hands are tied? We got the season going and your hands are tied? That's why I believe that they're really trying to get this deal done, because I think that if this deal gets done, it's going to be a big signifier to the rest of the team about who Kyle is as a man because of how BA performed himself during these negotiations. That's why I feel like they don't want to get this deal done. Because if this deal gets done, the cat's out the bag. Kyle can't sit here and play this big, tough, fat guys with guys that need to get paid, that deserve to get paid on this team. People are going to go back, and Debo almost did it. They corralled it in. When Debo asked for a trade on social media and kind of got cantankerous with Kyle, and then all of a sudden Kyle came in, wrapped his arm around him, and they got the deal done in the 11th hour, right? This one, I don't think that Kyle has the ego. I don't think that he has the ego to be able to take this and still have Brandon on the team and play. I don't see it.
Yeah, and KB Toy says, listen, the 49ers don't have to do anything. And I agree with that. They don't have to do anything. And Aiyuk is under contract. But that's like saying, a lot of people get mad when there's consequences with free speech. Yes, you do have free speech. That is true. But that doesn't mean that your employer has to like what you've said. Doesn't mean that there's not consequences with free speech. So no, the 49ers don't have to make a move. They don't have to acquiesce to Brandon Aiyuk. But that doesn't mean that Brandon Aiyuk has to show up and play in a Super Bowl or bust season either. He can sit out until week 11 and accrue a season and then go about his merry way. And when he does play, come in, catch the balls that he needs to catch, doesn't have to block for Debo downfield. None of that has to happen. So there are still consequences for whatever lane you choose to go with. So no, the 49ers don't have to do anything. But that's great. We can ignore BA and let them cry. But when the 49ers ain't winning and their Super Bowl window slams the fuck shut, you're not going to be very happy.
Hey, dog, this ain't North Korea. You think that this is like communist Russia? Like, ain't nobody about to be playing for no team that they don't want to be there. If that dude don't want to be here and the Niners force him to play on their 5th-year deal, dog, that will have so much harm to the organization, not only to the rest of the league, but to the locker room. You don't think that there's teammates that are staying out of this, or Brandon, that still think he deserves to get paid? And for them to sit back and watch the team do this to somebody that they drafted in the first round, that they forced to play when they themselves were culpable at not getting the deal done, dog, just because you can do something, that don't mean that it's right to do something. All right. You don't, and I'm gonna tell you this right now. Organizations are prime candidates to be evil villains if they do players dirty. I'm telling you, the Niners don't want to swim in that soup. On top of the fact that as soon as we start losing games, what's the first thing fans are going to start talking about? There's too many distractions. BA's a malcontent. Is he really playing hard? We don't even know if when's the last time BA's been targeted? All right? Like, stop acting like football. There's one thing that's crazy is that you can't treat football like a machine when humans run it. There's a human element to this. I know we want to talk about dollars and cents, black and white, but the reason why I'm telling you that this isn't about money is because if this was about money, the deal would have been done. It would have been done. So we have to talk about the context surrounding it. All right. It's chess. It ain't checkers. I know he's under contract. If this was all about BA having contract, let's turn off the fucking camera. We don't have a show. Why are we talking about this? The entire BA situation, he's under contract. This is a moot point. The reason why this is a point is because they have to make sure that they handle this the right way. This is a guy that they put vested time in. They have drafted this kid in the first round. He's actually shown proof to do exactly what the team needs. All right. He's a leader on the team. And it's coming out that not only does he want money that he's deserved, the money he's asking for is adequate market value. So the next logical question is what the fuck's going on with the team? You don't want to pay BA?
Well, not only that, but this is the first time in this regime where they haven't made a swift decision. Again, this is not about them choosing the wrong option. This is more about them not choosing anything at this point. Like, if they had chosen to trade BA and do it during the draft, we can talk about that. If they had chosen to sign BA, we could talk about that. We may agree, we may disagree. If they had decided to make him play on a 5th-year option, we can dissect that as well. We may agree, we may not agree. But this is the first time they haven't chosen anything at all. They haven't picked a lane. When they traded Buckner, people didn't agree with it, but they made the decision very quick. When they decided to keep Bosa, yes, it extended all the way until the final week right before the regular season, but we knew they were all in on Bosa. They weren't willing to trade him. They weren't even willing to listen to offers. But with BA, it's like they weren't really willing to listen to offers when it came to the draft. So that gives you the inkling that they want to keep him. But now they're willing to listen to offers the first week of August. That's bass backwards, man. That's not what you're trying to do when you're trying to win a Super Bowl. Like what the 49ers are doing right now with BA is unprecedented for this regime. This regime, right, wrong, or indifferent, always makes a decision on a player and they stick with that decision and they see it all the way through to the end. This is the first time they've decided not to do that. That's where the issue comes in for me.
Yeah. And then, you know, cliches like this just don't help, bro. I'm not singling you out in the sacred, but what next man? Who is the next man? I mean,
I got people in my chat telling me I'm crazy for thinking that Ricky Pearsall can't come in and have 1,300 yards as a rookie. So, look, I mean, these guys are just super optimistic, and that's fine, but that's all right. Call me the idiot, I guess.
My man said next man up. Who? Who's next? Ricky's hurt. All right. I mean, Jawan, Brandon, I mean, for what it's worth, I think we're getting a little off the rails here because we're tired of we're getting a little bit of BA fatigue, but he is our number one receiver. Let's not get that twisted.
Yeah.
There is nobody here that can replace him. You know what I'm saying? And Fish and Chips has been having a good time in my chat. Rob, Stop this. You know what I'm saying?
Sacred intuition. Listen,
I'm putting that up there.
He's a distraction because the 49ers have let him be a distraction because they haven't chosen what they're going to do. They're still playing with all options halfway through August.
Come on. And what's crazy is that, like, KB, this is why you talking greasy. Because you all over the map, brother. We already know BA is not Justin Jefferson.
He's not asking to be paid.
But he's not asking to be Justin Jefferson. He's not you got to stop this. He's not asking to be Justin Jefferson. He's not asking for 30 plus mil a year. Now we know. All right. So look, Brandon Aiyuk has been using everybody that he can to get his message out there. And the latest message that we heard was from his wide receivers coach, TJ Hushmanzada, who came out and explicitly said, BA wants 28. That's what he wants.
Which is extremely fair.
Super fair. That's Jalen Waddle fair. That's fair. I don't see how you don't think that that's fair. Now, if you don't think that he deserves that money, then you got to one yourself, son. I'm sorry. You got to admit that there's a part about this that rubbed you the wrong way, and it's a little personal for you too. Because if this is strictly about the money, then the deal should have been done yesterday. So you got to know that there's been some relationships that have been bruised, some egos that have been shaken up a little bit. All right. And that's what the real issue is right now. And maybe the reason why we've been going back and forth is because we have seen Kyle move forward in a way where he says, I can engineer production that is left with multiple guys. I can go get another guy and put him in the position that you're in because it's recipe versus diet. Kyle thinks that he just needs, if I'm out of salt, I just need to go get some more salt. He just doesn't understand that there's a difference in, MSG versus sea salt, which is healthy, which is a whole different quality. We understand that BA is not trying to be the number one guy anymore. I feel like that's a narrative that's out the window now. That can't be talked about anymore. That BA's being a diva. Like, oh, BA's being a diva. He wants 30 million. Not anymore. That's not out there anymore. So now what's the Niners' excuse? Now. So.
Yeah, and he's not asking for 30 million. Like Ross says he's not worth it. He's not even asking.
He's not asking for it.
Not asking for 30 million.
He's not asking for it.
He was offered 32.5 million from the Patriots and turned it down. If this was a diva and all about money, he would have just taken the money and ran. He does genuinely want to win. He does genuinely want to play for a good organization. That's why he's willing to go to the Steelers, and that's why he's also willing to re-sign with the 49ers. If the money's right. It doesn't have to be the same money as what a bad organization was offering, but it has to be fair market value, and 28 is well within fair market value. He's not over asking what he's valued at all at 28 million. It's not even close.
Hey, look, like honestly speaking, and I feel like he should have led with this. if I'm on Brandon's team right now, if I'm a family member of BA, I'm like, you could have just led with this. If you were gonna leak something,
But he has to the 49ers, though. That's the important thing. He has.
Correct me then.
The 49ers. He has. That's always been the number. 28 has always been the number. That's why in early or late June, I said BA 28 million a year, 4-year deal. I gave the figures. That wasn't because I was pulling something out of my ass. That's because that's what I had heard he was asking for. And it was just backed up by what TJ Houshmandzadeh said. So whatever I was hearing late June was the right answer. It's never been 30.
I like this because now we're soothing right now. This is what you call healing. This is the steps. Okay. So look, KB says, "Hey coach, let me ask you this, okay? If you take shots at your boss during contract negotiations, but claim that you want to go to another team the whole time, how does that benefit you getting your 28?" Now let's pause right there. This is why I say that it's not about the money. Because even though this is toxic, it's real. People feel a certain way when you are trying to get paid through negotiations. And I'm going to tell you, it shouldn't matter that BA talked about wanting to go with another team and that he feels as though that his worth is being undervalued. But this right here proves that it ain't about the money. It's about the relationship. Because even in this quote right here, you can see what KB himself is seeing the issue with. So why can't we see that that's what Kyle's tripping over? Why can't we see this? If we can see this from the chat, if KB can look at, we're 10,000 miles away from this situation. We're nowhere as close as everybody else is. But if we can glean context all the way from YouTube land and see this, then why is Kyle getting excused from being a human being? And why are we not looking at Kyle and saying, dude, come on, son, stop. It's me, bro. It's me. You only doing this because you mad at the way he talked about this. Like you only going at him because he dared to tell you that he was worth more than what you tried to get him at. Like, come on, bro. Like he went out here, he talked about your offense. He said that he wanted to be next to another QB. It's not a coincidence that he's a part of an organization that you loathe. Okay. And your father got kicked out of there. Y'all got fired from there. Come on, man. Let's be real. He did a whole podcast talking about that he wanted to be a true X. That's kind of a shot at your passing tree. We know that, Kyle. Come on. Let's just get out with it, brother. It's okay. We can talk about this. But I don't want to talk about this being a situation where the Niners think that Brandon Aiyuk isn't worth the money. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Not pay BA because you don't think the money is not worth it, but then turn around and pay Trent? That's what you're going to do?
But let's also keep it a buck and realize what the 49ers have done. Let's look at their side in this whole thing.
Before you go there, supers will be done at the end of the show, brother Bob. Don't be coming in here with that bullshit. Don't be trying to mess up my chat, trying to rise dissension in my chat. Don't come in here with that bullshit. Go ahead, Jesse.
So let's not forget what's happened on the 49ers side either, because BA did come to them immediately when the season ended and tried to get a deal done. He said they spent hours a day on the phone and they couldn't even get an offer from the 49ers to start the offseason. And the first time that the 49ers speak publicly, what did they say? And where was that at? Do you remember?
I think they said that they were more than happy with where they were with the negotiations, that they were moving in the right direction.
Now, the first thing they said was, we are willing to let him play on his 5th-year option. That was before they even started to negotiate with him. So if you're BA and you're entering the negotiations knowing that's their stance, are you even willing to operate in good faith? And then when they come out and say, hey, $24.5 million, that's the offer, and they don't change it for 4 fucking months, how can you take them seriously?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't.
You're watching all these other guys get paid and paid and paid and paid. They're still at 24.5. And the first thing they said is, well, we're willing to let him play on his 5th-year option. It's like, okay, well, are you operating in good faith in this whole thing? All right, you're not. Neither am I.
And speaking of good faith, Jesse, there were reports about overtures from the Niners that they wouldn't try to look for a trade, or they wouldn't try to replace BA during the negotiations before the draft. And it came out later on that they lied about it. They went out and they kicked the tires on Justin Jefferson. They reached out and tried to see what they could get done with the Steelers. This is when I remember when the first Steelers reports were coming out, and the Niners were vehemently denying the reports that they had reached out, or no, remember it was the Steelers that came out first. And if you remember correctly, the report from the Niners were, we can't stop anybody from offering us, but we didn't reach out though. We didn't reach out about BA, which is a crock of shit. Why would somebody just start offering picks in compensation for BA if you weren't taking fielders? So that's also, like, the Niners have been caught with their hands in a cookie jar a couple of times during this entire endeavor.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, and I said this on Tuesday. I get it. It can be frustrating when you feel, as a fan of a team, like you root for the name on the front of the jersey, not necessarily the name on the back of the jersey. I get that as a fan. So you're going to side with the team often in these situations. Understood. But for me personally, I am willing to let a 26-year-old who is in this situation for the first time in his career, and maybe the last time in his career, to be a little bit immature when it comes to these situations. But I'm not going to give an organization a pass when they are supposed to be the one that is mature in this situation. And then I hear that your coach is throwing fits basically over this whole thing and get him out of my face. Essentially, I'm not going to deal with him. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. I can't give that a pass because you always negotiate. You're supposed to be the ones that are used to these negotiations. You have no problem when you get to be the big man in the room and say, we're not willing to do this and you're not worth this because you don't do X, Y, and Z. But the moment that a player is willing to call you on your shit and push back a little bit, you're going to throw a fit like a petulant child. I can't side with that.
That's what this shit is about, Jesse. It's so wild. It's so wild. But this is essentially what this is about. This is all about, you got rubbed the wrong way because I wasn't going to let you tell me what I deserve to get paid. Mm-hmm. So now you in your feelings? That's what this is about, bruh? Like, in a sense, if it gets done, I was like, I don't want to hear no more tough talk from Kyle after this, even if the deal doesn't get done. Because if BA walks, number one, for sure, is that whatever the deal is, it's not going to be worth the compensation that we need. It's not. Even if it's picks. Picks don't matter in August. I'm sorry, they just don't. On top of it, I guarantee you there's going to be a contradiction if we don't pay BA fiscally, meaning that we're either going to pay Trent, which everybody's going to look at like, yeah, Trent's back, but for what, a year, if that? But you can't fork over the $6 million difference in the 3 years plus the 2 to get BA done, or they're going to move BA. We're going to be pissed off with what we get back. That's going to be whack. Or they're not going to move. They're going to move on from BA, get the compensation, and then still go out in the middle of the year and go get another pass rusher. Because they're going to get another pass rusher. I'm telling you. Like they got $33 million. That money is burning a hole in their pocket. The Niners cannot wait to double down. And what they really need to do is probably go get an interior pass rusher. So, I mean, let's just close it out here. We got to get to a couple of supers and chats. What do you say, bro?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So, right here, gonna go with some stars. Brother Bob, thanks, bro. Shut up. We have Kyle Levy, and he's the king. He's King Dingaling. I mean, he seems to be in his feelings, bro. Like, this ain't about money. This is not about like. I'm very glad that the numbers got put out there. Like, and you know what I'm talking about, Jesse. Like, I'm glad that the numbers got put out there where we can talk about it. like where they're all out there. We can just touch on it. And now that 28 is out there, this ain't about fitting him on the squad. We already know that we're going to have to make the decision between Debo and BA eventually. We already know that. So that's not the case. What we're looking at right now is that maybe I feel like Kyle was trying to save some money on the back end for BA because he's trying to get Debo signed next year. All in all, once they pay BA, because I still believe the deal's going to get done, once they pay BA, I feel like Debo's days are numbered. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been the conversation all offseason is that we thought that they would choose BA and they would eventually move on from Debo probably next offseason, but maybe they don't want to move on from Debo. Maybe that is the holdup here. I don't know. And I saw that Vlad the Impala says, he turned down $30 million from the Patriots. He actually turned down $32.5 million. And it's not because $32.5 million wasn't enough money. It was more than enough money, but he wants to play for a team that is competitive as well. And that's why he's willing to accept $28.5 from Pittsburgh and $28 million from the 49ers. He's literally giving the 49ers a hometown discount, and they still won't meet him where he's willing to be met. That says a lot.
Hey, look, and I'm first of all, I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like we need to kind of like smooth out the narrative now. Like, I understand that it was contentious, but now that we understand that the boy is on, the man is turned down deals spanning more than what it's perceived that he's been asking for. He's turned down 32.5. He turned down 30. All right. He came in at the number, and what it seems like, I mean, Jesse, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but BA's come in at 28 and he hasn't budged. He's always been at 28.
Yeah, ever since these guys started getting paid. He was in the offseason, he was around 26, but once everybody else started getting paid, he went up to 28.
Because they waited.
Well within fair. Yeah, it's absolutely fair.
Ricky Williams, thank you, bro. It's already hard to make it back to the dance after a heartbreaking loss. This season feels depressing. I'm saying hit the panic button, trade dudes, and get ready for life after paying Brock re-up on picks. I mean, that's one way to look at it. But then you have to look at what are we going to do with the guys as they age. I mean, we know that Trent's going to be on his way out, but we just signed CMC. We're kind of, I think that the Niners are going to start doubling down on some of these guys, the top heavy guys. I can see George getting another deal. I can see Debo getting another deal, especially if BA doesn't get signed. Fred is obviously going to get another deal, right? What are we going to do as far as our interior defensive line? We've let go of basically all of our homegrown talent that we built from the ground up on the interior. There's really everybody there is pretty much either a free agent or a guy that we picked up off the street, right? So you think that they double down on Javon Hargraves when it's time, because this is his last year?
They're going to move on from Hargrave after this year, I would imagine.
All right. Smack Jones, my guy. It was more Ryan and Salah. It's undeniable now. Yeah.
And this team was
the defense. Yeah, because of Ryan and Salah. Yeah, some special guys. JD Durham, kickballs, catch money. I think so. Football catch money. I don't know. I'm butchering it. Thanks, buddy. Golden, thank you. Question: did Christian McCaffrey holding out and showing up hurt make the 49ers pause on Trent Williams trying the same thing?
I think for them, it's more about they don't know how long Trent's going to play. And most likely, if you rework a deal, you're going to do it for more than a year. And if he retires next offseason, then you're out a lot of money. And so I think that that's really, really hard for them to justify right now. So I think that Trent's been year to year for a while. I think there's probably conversation this offseason that he's contemplating retirement. And so they're like, well, if you're contemplating retirement, but then you want to get paid all this money, it's like, we want more than just a year out of you. And so I think there's a little bit of a holdup there.
Yeah. I think that's precisely what it is. I think that Trent has kind of, I don't think he's overplayed his hand, but I think the Niners have sent back their counter, which is, all right, you got us by the short and curlies. We should have been able to go ahead and try to get your replacement in this year's draft. We didn't. You waited in the weeds. On top of the fact you saw Christian get paid, you understand what we're trying to do with Brandon. So good. Kudos on you. You got us in a position where we're ready to talk. Now that we're ready to talk, there's no way in the world that we're just going to give you guaranteed money for 1 year. We'd look like ridiculous suckers, right? So what are we going to do on the back end? I mean, can you give us 2 years? Can we pace out 2 guaranteed years, right? Where Trent may sign 2 years, 40 million, 2 20-year guaranteed deals. So it may seem something like that, or they may, I can't believe I'm saying this, but they may void him out again. They may give him a 3-year deal, throw some void years on it, pay him up front. It just seems like the Niner way, those hollow contracts.
Yeah.
PDX Niner says, I feel like my 10-7 prediction was too optimistic right now. I'd say 10-7 is where I'm at right now. What do you think?
I mean, I'm still at 12-5, but that's because I think BA and Trent will eventually show. But
I'm going 10-7 without them showing up.
Oh, if they're not showing up, I'm 10-7 is way too optimistic.
9-8, 10-7, around there.
If both those guys aren't on this team, they're not making the playoffs.
Nah, I agree. They're not making the playoffs if Trent and BA don't get re-signed. Brother Bob, thank you, Brother Bob. Nails, nice hat, but looks hella small. And you do too. Look, I don't know, bro. You got to give me more than what. Come on, I don't understand what the end of this says. And you do too.
I think he's saying that because I'm in the small box. I don't know.
They be going. They're going on the small box format. We have to switch it up, dude.
I mean, I still have like 4 things left on this thing. I'm good.
Yeah. No, you're good, bro. Dude, Kyle Levy pisses gold. Stop your hate, bro. The sarcasm is awesome. Brother Bob, also, here's $2 to maybe hear you say King Dangling. Hey, yo, you're nuts. Cryptic 999, thank you. What if Niners start off winning? You think something can be planned for a deadline? Don't like the back and forth of getting his money, but doesn't want to go, but also wanting to stay, but not take less.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a possibility. They could win without BA. Certainly. I mean, we can play out both sides. Yeah, they can win without BA.
I mean,
and if they do, that hurts his leverage. I get it.
I mean, if we start winning without BA, I think how we're winning without BA is going to be a really big deal. I mean, if we're playing teams where we're basically barely throwing the ball, but we're winning games, I think that strengthens BA's case, doesn't hurt it, right? Because the league is all about a game of patterns and attrition. And we saw this. You can go 5-0. You can go 3-0, 8-0 in a season. And all it takes is that one team that starts understanding, like, we got enough fresh tape. And things could get ugly quick. So I agree with this. If they start winning, things could switch up, but it just depends on how they're winning, in my opinion. Brother Bob, thank you again. BA should ask for the bank, $33 million per if the Niners start losing. That'd be a scumbag move. That would be a scumbag move. And Herbie Holland, thank you, $20. Here's the deal.
But real quick, 33
hold on, real quick.
Crazy. 33 is crazy, but what if they aren't winning and they go to BA and they're like, all right, BA, 28, let's do it. That was cute, but now we're at 30. Like, he absolutely could do that.
My head hurts. So, all right. So, even if they get to the deal, I just don't think BA would do that. I think that would make him look like a sucker. It's like you did all of this and then now.
How would that make him look like a sucker? I mean,
because
it's not today's price. If listen.
Oh my God! Here he watches one versus and here we go.
CeeDee Lamb gets $33 million between now and then, and BA sits out and they're losing. You just made me sit out. Now I missed all these games for what? No. 28 million is not going to do it anymore. You're 0-2. Give me 30.
I don't think the fan base that's not. We're not built that way.
Fan base wants. Who cares what the fan base wants? I think if I'm BA, I care what the fan base wants. I don't give a shit what you want. I'm trying to get paid.
Hey dog.
Care.
Hey dog. If he pulled that, I wouldn't. I mean, I would be tight. I wouldn't be mad. I don't know. I'd be conflicted, man, because it would be like, first of all, we coming to you like ASAP. We need you to play like right away, and this is what you pull at the last minute. Oh, it's a new league, man. It's a new league, but you know what? It plays. I understand that it plays. Let's get the last super chat up out of here, bro. Never mind. Herbie Holland, $20. Thank you. Here's the deal. Oh, we already talked about this. Here's the deal. You draft a guy first round, you groom him into the player you want, and then when it's time to pay him, you want to give him low market value, but you want to trade him at a high market value. What? I'm confused. I mean, that's precisely what the Niners are doing. That's literally what they're doing. And for a sweetener, they're asking everyone in the league not to notice this. They're also saying, like, hey, if you're the Browns, if you're the Patriots, if you're the Steelers, if you're the Commanders, you need to not look at the fact that we're doing this. Right? We're going to go on the back door and tell Brandon that he's not worth the money that he's asking for, but then ask for more in terms of compensation when we go out on the open market. And I know on one hand, you could say like, well, that's exactly what organizations are supposed to do, but not when your player is asking you for market value, though. You know, all of this plays if Brandon is being greedy. If Brandon is like immovable at 30, then it's like, all right, bro, you're leaving us really no choice, man. Like we got to do something, right? But to know that BA has been at 28 since the gate, it's on Kyle. It's on Kyle.
I also like wonder. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been a leader in an organization you've worked for, been a people leader, but for me, like I always called it a coalition. There's a group of 2 or 3 people that I always knew had my back when I wasn't there, when I wasn't privy to conversations that
soldiers.
Basically, people that I had taught and groomed to be exactly what I wanted them to be. I brought them into the company. I trained them the way that I wanted them to be trained, and they were exactly what I wanted. And watching the 49ers now do this, if they do end up getting rid of BA, do this to BA and do this to Buckner, but then turn around and take guys like Debo who aren't giving you full effort unless they're getting the ball, aren't coming in shape. Like, what tone are you actually setting to this locker room long term? Now, maybe it's not a big deal, but for me, as a leader, I would think that you would want guys like Buckner and BA because they're the perfect soldiers. They do everything and then some that you ask for.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes time to pay them, you're moving on from them. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I don't know.
I mean, it just seems like free thought is stifled. I mean, the mark of, and just to piggyback on what you're saying is because I love that point, Jesse, is that the mark of like a good leader is being able to be challenged, having more than one voice in the room, right? Like understanding that, you know, you need to be able to move, amicably, like with like people that you trust, being able to give people jobs and let them do their job. You know, we've been here way too long, but shoot, I mean, part of that is just realizing, you know, Kyle not calling plays for the first time in his 16-game career, and his 16-year career as a head coach / offensive coordinator, and him admitting on the mic that he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do with his hands. I threw a flag. I watched some film, but he didn't know what to do. And it's like, that's cute. I guess that was like some boyish shtick that he was trying to press off to the media because he wanted to look normal. But that shit annoyed me because it's like, all right, well, you mean to tell me that you didn't get to call plays? That's offensive coordinator stuff. You are the head coach. So you telling me that you didn't know what to do because you couldn't call plays lets me know that while you're calling plays, you still don't know what to do outside of just calling plays. So what are you telling me right now? Like, I was expecting him to say, like, hey, this is a change of pace. This is something where we're just trying to strengthen the process. Clint's somebody who I look at as somebody who is next up and coming, and I really respect his opinion. And there's no better way to get opinion from a guy unless he's really been able to sit in the seat and do it. I mean, these are things that we looked at that Coach Kubiak, his father, did for Kyle. Kyle's first year as an offensive coordinator, he didn't call plays. Coach Kubiak called plays. It took Kyle's second year before he was relinquished the opportunity to call plays. It's just, I don't know. It's all full circle to me, man.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to get off and do it.
Yeah, we're not. We got 125.
I do want to say, I think it was everyone's worst nightmare. Somebody said it. I forget who, and I apologize. Said somebody needs to tell Jesse he's a fan. I agree. I'm speaking from Brandon Aiyuk's standpoint. And I'm also not arrogant enough as a fan to think that Brandon Aiyuk should give two fucks about what I think.
Oh, that's why we pop off. Because we know they're not listening. If you're listening to me, your priorities are all fucked up.
You got a whole different problem.
Yeah, you got a whole different issue. If your ass is on YouTube talking about I really want to talk about the money, but I was watching Coach and Jessie's show last night.
Low key, that's kind of how you knew that Kinlaw wasn't ever going to make it.
Yes. Yeah, dog.
Period. Point
when
blank.
he took the opportunity to actually press record and hop in the chat, that lets you know right there, you're done, son. Like, hang it up. Hit the showers, kid. Forget football. You don't got it from the neck up. You're not built for this at all. You're too triggered. Lawless Light, $4.99. Thank you. I feel like when everybody's failing to value, is, does Brock Purdy need BA to continue to develop? Wow.
Yes.
Yes, he does.
That was the whole point. And I've made this argument with Grant all offseason. Grant has frequently said they have all these other weapons, and BA's not weapon number one. They shouldn't pay him like weapon number one. And my point to Grant was, you're paying a player for what they are going to be, not for what they have been. This year, he's only going to make $14 million, or even less, depending on how you restructure the deal. It's not about this season. It's about seasons going forward. And 2 years from now, when CMC's 30 years old and has lost his fastball, and Debo's not on this team anymore, and Kittle's 33, and all these other things, and Brock Purdy's continued to grow, BA will be the number one option. And you'll be happy that you paid him 2 years prior, because you're not having to pay everybody else. BA and Brock have grown together, and BA's allowed it to where you've been able to rebuild around Brock inexpensively through the draft, because you've got the number one weapon he can rely on. But the moment you trade BA, yeah, you might be okay for a year or two with these weapons in place. But as you start stripping weapons away, what if you missed on Pearsall? What if you take another receiver and you miss on him too? There's no guarantees that you've got a BA replacement incoming. Where are you at in 2 years when you've lost all these other weapons and you didn't keep BA? You don't think that that's important to Brock's development?
Yeah,
I do.
I do too. I agree. Lawless Light right back. Thank you, bro. Like I told Grant and Cone, the 49ers are a walking contradiction. We spend money on cash rush. We spend money on pass rush, but yet don't invest in pass protection. How does that work? I just want you guys' opinion. Well, I feel like we are a walking contradiction because it's not pass protection, but I just think it's the offensive line in general. We don't value the entire position. And part of it is because it's what Kyle puts value into the offense. I think Kyle puts value into the practitioners of the offense, and maybe he just looks at offensive line as like, I need that left tackle, but everybody else can basically be coached into the position. I feel like also Kyle growing up in the scheme with his dad and Alex Gibbs is that everybody talks about the zone run, like the outside zone, and that's the offense. Let's not get it twisted. But the lore of the offense, the reason why it was cutting edge and everybody wanted to get that offense is because you did not have to spend a lot of money on offensive linemen. You could plug and play tweener offensive linemen that were off the scrap heap of what was then body on body blocking with some of the biggest and nastiest offensive linemen that the game could find. And everybody didn't have that on their teams. That's why this offense was so advantageous. But now, as you see, because the game has become more pace and space and speed, that now teams are taking the run game for the angles and for the philosophy, but they're leaving the pass game. They don't want it. And it's just ironic that the pass game seems to be the most archaic part of this offense, but Kyle doesn't want to do the most forward-thinking move in signing somebody for the future in BA. I think it's quite telling. Well, that's our show. How you feel about the show so far, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I figured this was the route we were about to take. You know what I mean? It's like we came up with the topics and we had all these great topics, but I knew we would get off on this tangent. And it needs to happen. And the other elephant in the room is that, you know, we are kind of on this side quest of BA, but Trent Williams is really what matters too. And we have no clue. You know, you've got Kyle Shanahan saying in the press conference that, no, I don't feel confident, but I do, and trying to backtrack on the whole situation that Trent will be back. I don't know. I'm curious to see what's actually happening there as well. So the season's going to be interesting no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot to be talked about, man. So look, what do you got coming up for the week, bro?
I'll be live tomorrow on my channel with Sunil, Wednesday with Grant, and then Thursday with Marco. So yeah, definitely tap in.
Definitely. And I'll be back on Wednesday with Tom, Thursday with Grant, and then Friday I'll be popping in a new show on Fridays. Saturday, as usual, I'll have my show with Larry and my call-in show at 3:00 Eastern, which would be 12:00 Pacific time. So, hey guys, it was awesome. We'll see you guys when we see you. We're out of here, man. I'm ready to go to bed, man. Peace.